What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another pregame edition of the Everyday Sens podcast. I'm Jack Richardson. We got a little bit of a malfunction there. That's on me. That's the second time back-to-back lives that we've left a little thing going. If you were there in the last one, I coughed at the beginning. We were just talking about that. Anyway, Brennan, how you doing today? You're back on the pod. I want to get your thoughts, obviously, on everything that's transpired, but how you doing? Pregame here, Saturday, November 5th, Sens and Lightning.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about, and there's obviously been a lot since I was last on, which time just flies when you really think about it because I feel like I was just here. But there's been like 10 different storylines happen since I was last on the pod that we've got to dive into. I mean, some of the biggest things in the last few years for Ottawa. So obviously that's, Pierre Dorion. Now we're hearing about DJ Smith. We've got all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, we're going to see like the Sens are 4-5, and that's kind of what I come back to. I know, like, even on Twitter, I mean, I've been saying it repeatedly, and it's hard to avoid Pierre Dorion being like let go and stuff. But like for some of the other things, I've been pretty consistent with. Listen, we've talked a lot about the off ice stuff already. We spent all summer talking about the off ice stuff on the pod. Like there was no on ice stuff to talk about, and then the on ice season comes around, we're all excited about it. And here we are talking about the off ice stuff every episode. And it's like, man, I just want to watch some hockey and enjoy some wins. And we're not even getting that. So right now, I feel how I'm feeling with the Sens is like, I don't know. I'm excited about the next era with the GM out, the coach potentially out. It's exciting. I think the biggest positive for me right now is that Michael Andlauer and Steve Staios have like 100% of my faith. Hearing them talk in that one press conference after Dorion was like, go, it's just like, that was incredible. That was the best conference I've ever heard. Obviously, you did the live breaking that down too a little bit last time. Very good work, by the way. That was a solo hour for Jack, just talking to the chat and to himself. So shocked when I looked and it was an hour long. I was like, holy smokes, this guy like went on a tangent, but that's what Jack does, right? So yeah, I think Andlauer and Staios are the biggest positives, regardless of how the team is performing. There is a bright future. And I know we've said that for like 6 years, 7 years, but like now it's real because it's not just like false hope. It's actual legitimate stability and consistency and reliability. And we actually like when they show Michael Andlauer, let me say, I get really frustrated during the games when they're playing poorly, but when they go to the box and they show Michael Andlauer like rolling his eyes and turning around, I've never felt more connected to a sports owner in my life. Like he genuinely cares, and it's not just like word of mouth for him. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how they play tonight because this could really be, another big turning point because they don't play again until Wednesday. I don't know what's going on with the schedule, but they don't play till Wednesday. They were off from Saturday to Thursday last week. Like really weird scheduling, but we're gonna dive into it. So let's just jump right in. I want to hear some more of your thoughts. Obviously, you did talk for an hour, but let's get into the first segment here.
Yeah, I am going to ask you about Dorion, obviously, and just for what you mentioned there about Andlauer and how watching him react to stuff just makes me feel connected to him. I completely agree. I'm the same way. But ironically, it's on the topic. The one time, and I won't say one time because I didn't hate Pierre Dorion. I obviously don't have anything against him. It was time. So that's kind of what we got into with the live stream and everything, and obviously appreciate the kind words, but that doesn't happen without people watching. It was a great chat that we had going. So whoever was there, if you weren't there, it was still a good time if you caught it afterwards. But anyway, my favorite Dorion moment was when he threw the cup of water after an overtime loss a couple seasons ago. It's the most relatable thing he's ever done for me. So I want to get your thoughts on Pierre Dorion, and I want you to kind of hit on a little bit because it's obviously been a few days now. They've played a game. And what we keep hearing, and it's true, like his fingerprints are going to be over this team, all over this team for years to come. Like probably assuming Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle and all these guys stay forever, as Senators for life. Pierre Dorion's, fingerprints are going to be on that, and rightfully so. But there's also a negative side of that I want you to kind of touch on because I feel like, we got Travis Hamonic not having a great game against the Kings. Bit of a Cam Talbot beating the Sens against Korpisalo. Like Dorion's fingerprints are going to be on this team for a long, long time, both good and bad is kind of what I was getting at there. Maybe not long-term in a bad way. I don't think that's possible, but short-term for sure this season, especially a lot of moves that he made leading up to this year. So give me your raw thoughts when that was all breaking down. We had it teased for a little bit for a week. The writing was on the wall, but this Dadonov thing, just touch on all of that too, because obviously that was the nail in the coffin. But the headline, obviously they lost a first round pick. We'll get into that maybe later, maybe even an off season thing. But Dorion's out, and just give me your thoughts on the 8-year general manager being out.
Yeah, well, I think you said it, like, the Dadonov thing was the nail of in the coffin, like, that was a first round pick that Ottawa is now gonna lose. Ideally, it'll be 3 years from now. I was actually kinda thankful in the moment. I had a brief moment where I was just sure they were gonna lose, like, this year's first round pick, and then you're seeing how this season's going, and it's like, could you imagine if they lost another top 15 pick or something out of this? It'd be insane. At least they can just, like, kick the can down the road, we don't have to suffer, like, all at once, but regardless, it was like the nail in the coffin, but that basically means that Dorion had too many blunders before that. It's not just this one thing. It was error after error after error. And so I was happy to see Dorion out. Like, I'm not happy that he lost his job or anything, but this is a business and he knows, that no GM has lasted the duration of the NHL's longevity, like how long it's been around. Everybody at some point or another is out the door. That's just like the nature of the business, right? So Pierre, for me, he had his ups and downs with his moves. I will say, I mean, he did a fantastic job. Him and whoever else was in on it did a great job of signing the core. Obviously, they drafted a lot of the core. They signed them. The contracts were a big strength for him. I thought he made some good trades, some bad trades. I know we kind of had a really good timing on that one pod. I posted the clip on social, and I like highlighted his negatives, and everybody was in the comments like, "Well, you could show all the negatives for every GM," and I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not really the point. Like, it's just a matter of like miss after miss after miss. How many chances does a GM get? Because like, yes, they all have good and bad moves, but Dorian really whiffed on a lot of moves that were like franchise altering almost, and that really put them in a hard spot. Usually there's a 3 strike system or something along those lines, and Dorian probably had about 30 strikes. So he was just never going to be out with Melnick here. Like if Melnick was still here, and like we don't want to talk about Melnick too much because obviously still a touchy thing, but if he was still here, like Dorian would probably still be here too, because the leash was that long that it just felt like there was never going to be any accountability there. So I think that he kind of used all his 9 lives, and that was kind of it for him. And my biggest thing with Pierre was that I did not like how he spoke to the media off the ice. You were big on this, and you talked about it during the summer a lot too. It just I think unprofessional is the right word, and it's hard because he's bilingual and he's more French. So like sometimes the things he'll say, like they come off in a certain way that maybe they aren't supposed to because it's not really his primary language. But you just listen to him and the things he says, and again, a lot of Melnick's fingerprints and that era's fingerprints all over this, but it's like they're kind of playing games in the media. They're lying to us. They're kind of obviously the Dadonov thing turned out from what people were saying, the insiders, is that it seems like Pierre kind of just lied and got caught in a lie. And it just like what a silly thing to do. We'll put it that way. But he kind of did that with the media and the fans too, is they almost lied to us on a regular basis about what was going on behind the scenes, what their plans were, and then they do something else. And that's just frustrating to see because you want to trust the people that are running your team, and Pierre was very much running the team for a while here, and now like you look at Anlauer and how he's doing, and you just immediately get this sense of trust in him and Steos. Like they just give off this vibe like they're not just like BSing you, they're telling you the truth, they're telling you everything. They're not like Pierre and Eugene too had a really strong, like they gave off this impression like they were kind of dancing around the subject. They didn't want to say direct things. They wanted to dance around and kind of tiptoe and be careful. Like Anlauer and Steos came out in that press conference and they just hit on everything, straight to the point, no fluff at all, right to it. And that was so refreshing. And so I think that press conference really made me feel good about letting Pierre go or mutually parting, just because like it showed how unprofessional he was as a GM. And if you listen to other GMs and kind of business people around the league too, and you listen to their interviews, there are very few that sound kind of like Pierre did in Ottawa. And again, I don't want to hate on Pierre. I don't dislike him as a person or anything. I think he had good intentions. It's just, and maybe it's just the Melnick overlap, but like, I don't know. I just got this kind of bad feeling every time he spoke to the media. And I really hate not being able to trust the people running, my favorite team as a sports fan. And so that's kind of my initial reaction. There's more detail to it, obviously, but I think regardless, we were both on board with parting with Dorion in the summer. Like if Anlauer came in sooner, I think he would have replaced him anyway. I do think that was the plan all along. And that's why I think DJ is also going to be out the door here soon, is because Anlauer came in late and it was hard for him to replace people with the limited time he had. It was so delayed. He even talked about that too in his press conference, how he was like the sale was so delayed, and it kind of like he really called the league out on several fronts. He didn't know why it was so delayed, and he thinks other things should have been told to him. It's another aspect where I feel like if it wasn't as delayed, they probably would have both been gone. He would have brought his own people in, because that's usually what you see with ownership groups. And I think this was kind of just a reason to get rid of Pierre. They took the opportunity, because it was like, listen, Pierre, we gave you a little tryout. It's not working. The team is not good enough on the ice, right? Like you're now facing LA and you're getting outplayed by Talbot, and then that's bringing up some old scars, and then I think they wanted to bring their own people in anyways, so I think they took the chance. I think DJ is going to be next, but those are my thoughts on Pierre. If you want to hear Jack's thoughts, go back to that last live stream for the hour, because
I've got more. Don't
yeah,
worry.
give me more thoughts.
I had to sit on it, and the reason that we're talking about it again, we want to get your reaction, but also we've had some days to sit on it. And what I said about the fingerprints being all over this team, DJ Smith is here because of Pierre Dorion. So in a way, I know Andlauer and Staios said they didn't want to do this now, and I do believe them. I don't think they're lying. They didn't envision this. There's no way Staios thought he was going to take over as GM 30 days into his tenure.
No, he bluntly said he was expecting, like, he's not expecting to do this. So.
Exactly. And I know that you and I, and me for sure, I brought up how he did it in Hamilton. He took over, but that was after a year. So that was what I thought was going to happen eventually, but didn't plan on having this now. It just, the Dadonov situation just made it like this guy cannot stick around. And there's reasons for that. But I just want to bring up, so my point was what Andlauer, when in the summer, when Dorion came to him and he was like, what do you want to do with DJ? And Andlauer said, that's your call. You're the GM. In a way, that kind of sealed the fate that they've got right now. Again, we'll get into DJ Smith in our next segment here, but J-Mix, I want to point out, so this is a great, this made me laugh. It's a great comment. We should need to exercise the CTC because that's about, I guess, curses and stuff. They got to get rid of those. But I wanted to point out this one. So I'm using a good comment from you, and I'm going to use this one too, J-Mix. So he says, PD also had zero support, not excusing the screw-ups, which I know you're not, but he can only do so much with so little. I would argue that that's kind of his own doing. You look at Randy Lee as an assistant GM, that's a bit of a different scenario, obviously, with the legal case, but Peter McTavish, Trent Mann, all just Pierre Maguire. It's like four total, but three executives that kind of just went away. And when Dorion, I'm going back to that media stuff, when he's sitting there, right when Staios gets hired, the obvious look is on Dorion. How does it feel being overmined a little bit by Staios? That's the obvious question, elephant in the room. Dorion's first quote in that press conference that got me heated on the day. He said, I've been begging for help for years. And I don't doubt that. I don't. But this is a man who was notoriously brutal to work with behind the scenes, and that's just the bottom line. So yeah, he had no resources maybe, but the support was there. He just chose not to work with it, is what how I interpreted the scenario. So look, that all aside, again, all the decisions that he made, he was the GM for 8 years. I talked on the stream, I was in the spring of grade 9 when he was hired, and I'm done university now. It's been that long. It's a generation almost, right? 8 years is a long time. So that was it was a cathartic live stream. That's how I'll put it. It was just nice to air it out. I think I told you, but halfway through, trying to be respectful. A guy lost his job. You don't want to go through all that. And then halfway through, I was like, you know what? Screw this. Let's light up the chat with his worst moves. And we had 20 different ones to talk about. It was not a very nice one. But again, that's what happens. It's sports. That's how it's going to work. I think what I like about sports so much, and it's a bit of a broad picture, like a big picture kind of look at it. If the Sens go out and made the playoffs this year and Dorion was still there, all the people, I would be included in that, but all the people who were detracting him, saying he can't do anything, if Tarasenko went and scored 45 goals, was the team's best player, they make the playoffs, make some noise in the playoffs, then it's as a Dorion himself, but as a Dorion supporter, whatever, you can go around and make fun of the people who are his detractors. That's how sports works, right? You have an opinion, you have a take, and if you're wrong, you got to wear it. And if you're right, you get to boast about it. That's the way it works. And it's not that either of us, because we wanted him out, are boasting, but it's just this is the reality. And I think the fan base is pretty unanimously in agreement that they need a new head coach. And part of the reason the head coach is there right now is because of Dorion. So it all comes back to him, and it will for a little while, good and bad. So I think that's kind of the message that we're both, putting out there anyway with this whole Dorion situation. In a way, personally, I'm a little bit disappointed that it happened like this, just in the sense that there's so much other stuff going on around the team that it kind of gets lost, the headline for the week wasn't even Dorion really, right? Which is crazy. It was more of a, he resigned in scandal versus it was a mutual firing. We'll put that in quotations. Everyone knows kind of, the writing was on the wall, but in a way, you mentioned that press conference, Andlauer, the way he spoke about, we didn't have a first round pick. We lost this one in this, fine. And then we didn't have one last year, didn't have one the year before. He said it in French, I think a bit better than English, but he was just saying like, for what, right? And I think that's a good point. I mean, yeah, you got a good player in DeBrincat, you got a good player in Chikrin, but they didn't make the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs, and they haven't picked in the first round in back-to-back seasons. Could potentially be a third where they don't have their own pick. So Andlauer, to me, when he said that, it was more in French. I don't know if he hit on it in English, but when Andlauer said that, I was like, okay, this was an evaluation of Dorion's work as a whole, and he was saying it's not good enough. Someone's got to be held accountable. And they're 4-5 now. They were 4-4 at the time. So we'll get into the actual team and everything like that on the ice, but let's start right now with DJ Smith. Do you want to take control here just with DJ Smith? Like he's reportedly, I said reportedly, the streets again. Martian thinks that the seat is hotter than we might think, even though people probably think it's pretty hot. But maybe just with that dump and chase stat that Megan Chayka was doing. I don't know if you caught that. I'm sure you did. But on Twitter, they are, I believe, third last in the NHL in terms of goals for produced off of dump and chase opportunities analytically. And I think a lot of people were discussing how they don't have the team for a dump and chase style. And that's another part of it too. So why don't you just take the reins here on DJ Smith being on the hot seat? That's kind of the headline going into this game, that it could potentially be his final game as an Ottawa Senator.
Yeah, DJ is a topic that it's one of those things where I feel like I have too much to say about it, and so I have a hard time articulating my thoughts just because there's so many thoughts. I don't know. I felt like DJ, like I think we were almost on opposite sides where I think we both agreed that like both these guys could be gone, Dorion and DJ, like in the summer, and it would have been fine. But I think you were more heavy on Dorion going, and I was more heavy on Smith going. Um, I don't know. For me, Smith, it just seems like he's run his course. Like this team, I know that Steo said it, and people say like they haven't quit. I mean, I'm not going to say they're quitting on the ice, but like the team is 4-5. Now, I put up the stat. I'm trying to think. I think it was during the first 20 games of each of Smith's 5 seasons now, including this one, their Sens have produced a record of like 28, 57, and 4 or something insane. And I guarantee that's last in the league in that time. And they've never won 10 of the first 20 games with DJ Smith as head coach. That is a damning stat. Like that's not winning 10. And again, yes, they were rebuilding for the first 2 years. Well, what about these last 2 years? Because now like it still hasn't improved. Like last year, the season was over by December. This is why I don't buy into the whole there's a lot of hockey left, is because you're guaranteed to play 82 games, but you're not guaranteed to play 82 meaningful games. Like the season, like the Sens were 8-13-1 entering December last year. They finished 39-35 and something. And that's a positive record. Like from going 8-13-1 to 39-35, that like they battled back. They had a great second half to the year, but it still wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. They still missed by 3 full games with 6 points, and that would have only tied them for the last playoff spot. Like this is a hard league, and it can very much, the season can be over by December if you're a few games behind. Like they really didn't recover from that last year. And even though they were playing meaningful games, quote unquote, down the stretch, like if you win a few of those November games last year, you're in a playoff spot. Like if this year, if they don't start like 4-7, say they lose the next couple, right? Like maybe they end up making the playoffs. It's just, there's a lot of what ifs, but I think it all comes back to coaching. And again, the players have to perform. Obviously now they're dealing with injuries. We're going to talk about that. I just like, there's no more excuses here. Like this is year 5 for DJ. It's year 6 of the rebuild. I don't know. Like there's no more excuses for anybody. And frankly, if the team is underperforming, injured or not, somebody's got to pay. And like Dorion paid, but he didn't really pay for the team. He paid for his own stupid mistake. Now it's like DJ's got to go because clearly something's not working here. Now, I still don't like DJ's coaching decisions personally. I do think he's made better ones this year in regards to lineup decisions. But again, if you look at the ice time, they're still using, like before he got hurt, Shabbat was still averaging way more minutes than everybody. Like they're just not splitting things up like I think they should be. And then we've got this. I don't know if it's going to show well for people maybe watching on their phones. This is the stat he was talking about earlier with the dump and chase. Which basically shows, you can see Ottawa in the bottom right, which is like basically last. It means that they dump the puck in among the most times, like over 55% of the time, and then they basically like fail to actually create anything out of that dump and chase, because really what Ottawa does is they dump the puck in and then they don't chase it. So it's just really a dump and give the other team possession while we stand around and do nothing. So like this topic gets me heated, man. I'm trying to keep my cool, but when we talk about how the Sens play hockey, it is really frustrating because like go through and watch the games, watch them back after you watch it the first time, and you'll see like how much Like Tim Stützle should not be coming over the red line and firing the puck into the corner more often than not, and then like trying to throw a body check to get the puck back. That's not his game. That's how players get hurt. Like now we're subjecting them to more physicality. The Sens are a very physical team. Maybe that's part of the reason that half the damn lineup is out all the time. Like there's got to be something that we can change here to adjust and kind of like prevent these injuries. And then like DJ said this summer, he was going to value puck possession more. This is the thing. DJ says a lot of things, but then they don't really get followed up on the ice based on how the team is playing. And again, they hired Sean Tierney in the analytics department, and you look at a stat like this for Megan Chaika, and it's like, this is kind of what Sean Tierney needs to be doing, and I'm sure he is doing. But is DJ like learning? Is he kind of using these stats to do something, or is he just using them as like cool factoids and then like throwing them in the back bin? Like, it's really confusing to me because I think that the Sens have more than enough skill, even with their injuries. And we're going to look at their lineup a little bit and kind of compare them to Tampa here and a little bit later before the game. But if you look at Ottawa's personnel, even with the injuries they have right now, I still think they are more than good enough to be playing a possession game. Like you still have a lot of your top forwards. You still have a line, and they're not playing together tonight, but Kachuk, Stützle, and Giroux, who were one of the best lines in the league last year. And frankly, they're not even really working that well this year. And it's like, yeah, they're all producing, but if you watch them play, like where's the possession? Where is the offensive zone control and the confidence and the passing? Like it's just not present. So I don't know if like this is something to do with the way they practice, and if they, I mean, it is, because DJ actually comes out after 90% of the games and he says, well, our goal was to get pucks behind them and we did that. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean anything. That's not translating to success clearly. So I think we should adjust because it's not working. This is what I really was fearful with DJ entering this year, is that he's never been a coach who adapts. He kind of just gets stuck in his ways and tries the same things over and over and over, and it just doesn't work. And that's why I think it's time for a change. It's like, it's been 4 years. Like, I don't even want to see anybody saying that this is, we're only 9 games in, because we're not. This is like, how many games for DJ now? I had this stat. It was like 300 games, 302 games right now.
He just had his 300th
Yeah.
game.
So
I
301
think
tonight,
Thursday was his
302.
300th.
Yeah. So like that's 300 plus games of DJ Smith. What are we talking about? Like the calendar doesn't just reset because it's a new calendar year. DJ Smith's calendar does not reset ever. Like this has been 300 plus games. And if you want to remove his first 2 years because they were rebuilding and weren't supposed to be good, look at last year and the year before and then this year. And it's like, there's a clear pattern here. We've seen enough. Like it's not just going to magically change. And I think that's kind of been proven so far this year. So that's why I am very much on the DJ, out team here. And I don't want to get too cynical or too negative about this topic, because I very much have been. But like, this is just, it's been really bad this year. And they have the personnel. Last year, it was DJ came out and said that he didn't have the roster this summer. He said he's never had the roster to compete. It's like, man, you've been given the roster now, and I actually credit Pierre for giving him the roster. Like the Sens have a good roster this year. Don't be fooled. Because I see people kind of turning this narrative now into, well, Ottawa's roster isn't as good as everybody thought it was. And no, that's not the problem. Their personnel is better than a lot of teams in the league. It's just the way they play on the ice is not good enough. So those are my thoughts on DJ. I'm gonna like pass out here. I'm out of breath. Like I need a few minutes. So take over. Tell me what you think about DJ's decisions. Should he be out the door? Because I need a breather here.
Yeah, my goal obviously this episode was just let you talk, because I did all the talking on the last one. So yeah, look, I agree, and you were right that in the grand scheme, I was more on team DJ than Pierre, and it was probably the reverse for you. Like I've been a DJ Smith guy. I don't buy the narrative he's a bad coach. I think a lot of the time it's like the same thing goes both ways, right? I believe him when he says that I've got to change. Like we changed our D zone and we did all this. Like I genuinely do believe that. The problem is, and it's been a big thing with DJ Smith, is like he says the right things. That's not ever out of the question. He has misquotes sometimes that maybe get misquoted, unfairly against him. But for the most part, he says the right things. Now, the problem is, when you coach a team for so long, the message gets diluted, right? And I made that point that if we're sick of hearing what he's saying, how is the team not sick of it after 4 years? This is 5th season, right? Which is insane. And that, again, it's on the rebuild mindset where we've got this coach that we're going to grow up with. And maybe, like, we'll never know, but maybe Brady Tkachuk doesn't become this kind of player. Maybe Tim Stutzla doesn't blossom into a star if they
But
don't
like
have DJ as a
if
coach.
you have you seen the clips though where they are frustrated because you can see they're going at each other, right? Like
Different. That's different this season is what I'm saying. So part of the reason last year I wanted them to make the playoffs so bad is because they would have made that hurdle. They would have gotten rid of the, you know, bad starts are going to ruin our season because they had a bad one last year. Like the pressure that put on this season, and you got Brady in the summer and the offseason saying that the pressure got to us last year. And we're on the brink of the same thing happening again. You lose tonight, you fall to 4-6. They're already dead last. Like it's just a hill to climb. Even a 4-6 start, you're out of it, you know?
you're
And
way behind.
like, they're still already out of it. And I know it sounds crazy because it's only 4 or 5 points, but they shouldn't be climbing. It's ridiculous. So that'll, like, the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over and expecting different results. And that's why Pierre Dorion needed to go, because they kept doing the same thing. He changed. He did. He got Giroux, Tarasenko, got the big goalie, made some big trades, wasn't hanging on to picks, you know, but he didn't change the coach. And I think when you don't do that, the coach is going to keep coaching the way he knows how. And again, I'm not saying DJ is a bad coach. You looked at that chart there with the dump and chase stuff. They compare their game to Carolina a lot. And I know that they've said it in media stuff, and it sounds ridiculous, but you watch the style. Carolina dumps the puck in a lot, and they were on that chart in the same kind of area. Now, granted, they're not having a great start to the year, but overall, same coach, like they play that kind of style, but they have the team for it. The Sens don't have the team for dump and chase. And it sounds crazy because you kind of personally, even I've just assumed like that all these guys are thriving under DJ Smith, but it's Brady. And I think it was Sean Simmer, who made the point on Twitter. Who else on that roster is suited for a dump and chase style? Nobody.
They're a
Nobody.
skilled team. They're built to be a skilled team. Carolina is
Exactly.
built to be a gritty team.
So Pierre Dorion's philosophy over building the roster was good. It worked out. They've got a pretty good roster right now. It's just not playing to its full potential, and that's on coaching. So his biggest fault is going to be bringing this coach back. But again, I don't buy the narrative that DJ is a bad coach. I don't think that's fair, but he's just not the right coach for this team anymore. And he was in the first few seasons, and that's when even with records early in the year, like they were a bad team. His first season, like I was cheering for them to lose every game. That was the 2020 year that got cut short. But following that, the stat that I like the most, and I say like as in I like to use, I don't like it at all because it sucks. In the entire NHL, and I'm going to credit Zubcast here because I didn't want to check out the stats because I don't know how to find them. Zubcast on Twitter, they're great podcast as well. They found the stat that the Sens are 32nd in the NHL in goals for per 60 minutes when they have the goalie pulled. Dead last in the National Hockey League in goals for per 60, not goals for total. But even if it was goals for total, they've played way more 6-on-5 than a lot of other teams. Like the first place team on that list is Tampa Bay. And I'm talking in the DJ Smith era. So since he took over, the Ottawa Senators are 32nd in the NHL in scoring with the goalie pulled. And that alone is fireable, I think, right? You think of all the games last year, they were down by 1 in regulation and couldn't score. That alone is abysmal in my eyes. I didn't watch Thursday night's game. I couldn't watch, but I watched the highlights the next morning. And the fact that the only highlight, I was at work the next morning and the only highlight playing on SportsCenter every half hour was Tarasenko or whoever it was missing the net with 7 minutes left. They didn't generate a chance at 6-on-5 and they lost 3-2. That alone is like enough to get someone moved. And what bothers me, and I'm going to cite Keith Tkachuk too here, which is a bit out of left field. Maybe he went on Locked On Senators this, a couple weeks ago, a month ago. It was a great interview. But he pretty much backed DJ Smith too, said he's a great coach, went out of his way to say it. Why are you backing this coach as players? And it's different when players do it, and because they have to, they got to say that. They can't come out and say, I don't like playing for this guy. But it's the way they say it. When Tim and Brady at the end of last season vouched for him, like I understand it probably wasn't great. I mentioned Dorion working like with people. It wasn't a great collaboration. It probably wasn't easy for DJ Smith on most days collaborating with Pierre Dorion. I'm sure they butted heads a lot, but why defend him when like they're almost staking their own reputations on it. Does that make sense? Like we're now so locked into this core that you've got to bank on them. And I don't hate that. I believe in them, but I'm sure like Andlauer met with a few of them and said like they love the coach and everything. And that's kind of what came out in Steos when I'm sure he talked to all the players. They said they like DJ. Like eventually you got to go get results. And there is an element of that for me too. Like the coach can't go out there and defend for you. The coach can't go out there and finish chances. I think last year that was their biggest issue was finishing earlier in the season. He can't put the puck in the net for you. This year is a bit more frustrating though, because they have a better team than they did at this point last year, and they're still in the same spot, right? So that's my DJ take. It's not that I don't like the way he coaches. I think it could work somewhere else, another team, whatever it is. It's not going to work here. It's time for him to go. Even if they win tonight, like until we see it, we can't think anything else. And it's just the same movie every time. It's November and they're under 500. Same thing, 3 years in a row.
That's why I think it's like it doesn't have to be this complicated thing. At the end of the day, you just look at his results and we're seeing the exact same problems. Like, why do I get so frustrated on Twitter during the games? Well, it's because they have the exact same defensive zone breakdowns over and over and over that we saw like 4 years ago with the worst players ever playing in the lineup, and then they still can't like maintain control of the puck. And this is their best players. If it was their fourth line guys, whatever. Like if Rourke Chartier wants to dump that puck in and go chase it 10 times in a row, I don't give a damn. But when Tim Stützle is doing it, I am going to lose my mind, right? So I don't think it even has to be complicated. You just look at the results, and if we're serious about building a best in class culture here, like 4-5 is not best in class. 7-12-1 last year is not best in class. 23-57-4, whatever I said over the first 20 games of the last 5 years is not best in class. Like I don't want to say I don't care what the players think, because obviously the players have a very big say in how the team operates. But like I'm with you. I'm kind of just confused as to why they keep going to bat, because there are ways of like saying you like your coach without actually praising him and saying like, insinuating that you want him to stay. The players very much go out of their way to really say nice things about him. And it's just, again, they've never played under, most of these players have never played under a different coach. So you can kind of understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, like you see how frustrated Brady's getting on the bench. You see even Tim's getting frustrated. Chikrin's, going at it with some guys, and it's all healthy, obviously, but like the frustration's going to boil over at some point. At what point do you, start to say, okay, I think we need to reconsider what we're doing here because it's not working? Frankly, if the players love DJ Smith so much and want to go to bat for him, I want them to come out after the game and say, we have not been anywhere near good enough, and it's on the players. It's not on the coaches. If they come out and say that, I'll feel a lot better about DJ. But somebody's got to take accountability, because accountability has been this like cloud hanging over the organization for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. Like it's always been here with the Melnyk era, and nobody has ever owned up to it. Like nobody has ever taken accountability for anything. And this core now, like, yeah, Tim's still young and Sanderson's young. Shabbat's like 26, 27. Brady's getting like, he's what, 23 now, 24. He's getting up there. Batherson's up to 24, 25. Like they're in their prime now. Most of the core is signed into their prime and their window is open. So having a negative record, and you know what makes it worse, the negative record, is that you look at Detroit, you look at Montreal, you look at some of these teams who have positive records and who have had these really hot starts, and you're like, there's no excuse, because Ottawa has had a very easy schedule. Like they've been at home most of their games. Like that's where they're supposed to thrive, right? They've had the breaks. I mean, they had a 4 or 5 day break between the game against LA, and then they came out flat against LA. Like, how do you do that? I understand that maybe the breaks are like working against them, but come on. I mean, we've got so many things in their favor this year, aside from injuries right now. I just don't really understand how they're struggling like they are. And somebody here is going to have to take accountability, because we can't just keep pushing this down the road. Like you said, 4-6. And I saw a comment up here about 4-6, how it's basically, and this is from Seamus Thompson, 4-6 in the Atlantic is the same as 0-10 in my eyes, because the division is way too good to be fighting from behind. And that's a fantastic way to put it from Seamus, because you can't fall to 4-6 when you're in an Atlantic division in an Eastern Conference who is literally full of powerhouses. Like they're not going to be competitive. And frankly, like to me, 4-6 just means you're one game from 4-7. And that is like almost irreversible. Like they're basically putting themselves in a situation where they have to go on a winning streak like New Jersey did last year, where you win like 13 games in a row. And that's extremely unlikely to happen. So it's frustrating, but yeah, DJ Smith, I think, is the one who's kind of going to fall on the sword here, because really it's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, coaches go like away all the time, right? And it's almost unprecedented that DJ's still here in general. It was unprecedented that Dorion was still here. Like it's a strange scenario. And I wanted to throw up Dave's comment there, and he said a couple times, and I don't disagree that he's the wrong coach. Obviously, I'm just pushing back on the bad coach thing, because you look at like Vegas, right? Vegas went through 3 head coaches in 6 seasons in their existence, and they won 1 Stanley Cup, missed the playoffs once. And their coaches were Bruce Cassidy, who won the cup. Pete DeBoer is one of the best coaches in the NHL. And who was their first coach? It was Gerard Gallant, another great coach who, again, admittedly, doesn't last very long where he is, but that he gets results, and it's a results-driven business. So I wanted to talk about Vegas. So Dave, I don't mean to call out your. It's hard to argue with someone who's in the stream, right? Because you can't. It's not really fair for if you're just typing. But I just disagree. Like I don't think he's a bad coach, but we don't have to get into that, because right now the team isn't playing well, and he's their coach. So yes, in that sense, he is a bad coach. But it's funny because we love, and the NHL, the league fans, hockey fans love to clown the Leafs for running it back all the time, same coach, same players, all the thing, and losing the playoffs the same way every time. In a way, the Sens are doing the exact same thing. It's been 3 seasons now of the exact same movie, and I'm watching it right in front of my eyes. You start kind of strong, couple big wins, you're feeling good about yourself, light schedule at home to start. The minute adversity hits this team, boom, they hit the fan and they're done. And that's the movie we've seen. And people might be saying I'm being negative or cynical or whatever, which I've gotten, like both of us have probably gotten that on Twitter recently. Until I see better things, I'm not going to change the way I talk about this hockey team. Until they prove to us as the fan base, it's not even about the ownership, the GM, the president. That doesn't matter. That stuff, that's just fluff. That's the people who are in the suits. And at the end of the day, like I mentioned before, the suits don't put the puck in the net or don't stop the puck from going in the net. So if this team likes DJ Smith and they really enjoy playing for him, we'll see it tonight. If he's on the hot seat, he's not going to hide it from the team. They're going to know. They should know by this point with all the changes that have happened already. If they like playing for him, they'll show us tonight. If they come out flat again and they don't have a good start or it's inconsistent, whatever it is, then this coach has to go. And even if they play well tonight, it's probably not going to change the way I feel or the way any of us feel. He's not the right coach right now for them. But that's just the thing. Like if they were 6-3 or whatever it was, and they had a positive record, they were stringing wins together and the losses were few and far between, it'd be a different story. But the emphasis on a good start was there from day one of training camp for the 2nd year in a row. Brennan, we can go back to articles from 2022 saying how important a good start was. September 2022, everyone gets to camp early and we've got all these new faces. Great top 6. Look how we're going to do. Norris goes down. Now we're screwed. They win 2 games in the stretch of 11 in November. Unacceptable. They come into camp this year, 2023. Good starts important. Captain's skate early on in the season. Everything's looking good. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. And I know I'm screaming at the air right now because you agree with me, but it's the only reservation I have about this core. And I love Brady Tkachuk. I love Tim Stützle. I'm thrilled that they're signed here long term. I don't understand the public backing of the coach going out of your way to talk about this hockey coach, and you don't go and put up the results. And I'm sure that's part of the frustration on a loss. Brady gets frustrated if they lose because of that, but it's if they end up losing tonight, then it's kind of you've got to start asking some questions about this core. I think I really do, because they're right in these games, and it's not like they're breaking down, and it's other than the Detroit and Buffalo ones, like the other losses have been relatively close. It's on the players at that point too, right? So that's where I'm at with DJ. It's frustrating. I know it's frustrating for the players too, but it's just it's a little disconcerting, I think, because like you mentioned, the ages and everything, it does kind of feel like they're wasting prime years here. Sweden will be a bonding experience with their new coach. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Claude Julien, baby, bring me Claude.
Claude Julien would be a great call. So we'll get into candidates and stuff. We did this summer, man. Like we talked about it forever. I think DJ thought he was done. I don't think he thought he was coming back. We don't have this on the docket. Maybe we'll save it for a rainy day. But we got to talk about the NHL at some point, just bending this team over and over again, because the investigation stuff and also the dragging out of the sale process probably caused this bad start when you think about it. And other fans might say that that's just me, with copium or whatever it is. But I mean, you look at it, they couldn't have a fresh start at the beginning of the season because the sale took so long. So That's all I got on DJ. I don't know if you have anything more, but we basically just hit 40 minutes talking about front office stuff without even touching on the game that we're about to preview. Let's get into the Lightning at Senators. I got the records there, and there's something I want to point out here. Without a loser point, it's another thing that I've noticed about the NHL here. The loser point has to go. And again, it's just because the Sens are in the bottom of the standings, but the Lightning are 4-6. The Lightning are 4-6, and the Sens are 4-5. So these are two bad teams. Okay. And a loss is a loss to me. Points are points, but this is two teams with 4 wins. This is, that's how I look at it. So, what are you expecting from the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight? Because obviously, home opening weekend, it was a great game between the Sens and the Lightning, and obviously Ottawa came out on top. But what are you looking for tonight? Lightning have strung together some wins here and there, just haven't been very good on the road.
Yeah, so I just looked at it. They've lost 2 in a row. So they lost to Columbus last game and Seattle the game before that. I don't know. I mean, I think they're a beatable team. Ottawa already did beat them. Now they're going to be facing Jonas Johansson tonight, who obviously is not Matt Tompkins, who they faced last time, and we didn't even know who that was. So it's going to be a bit different. Johansson somehow, again, Tampa's pulled off this weird thing of finding a random goaltender, pulled him out of nowhere, and he's incredible. So again, I think that speaks more about their system and the way that they don't give up as many chances more than it does the goaltender. But to each their own. I just think it's a winnable game. Their lines too, like it's pretty much the same as the first time. They've got Hagel, Point, and Esamon. Stamkos is playing this time. Stamkos, Paul, and Shiri, Barboulay, Sorelli, Kucherov, Jeannot, Glendening, and Watson. And then it's Hedman's, Chernak, Sergachev, Radish, DeHaan, Perbix, and then Johansson. So honestly, it's still a deep team. We talked about that the first time we previewed it, is that they're a really deep team from top to bottom. Not a lot of weaknesses. The Sens honestly are just their own worst enemy. I don't even really care what the other team looks like at this point. I still think the Sens should be able to compete with like almost any team in the league. I think their defense is pretty rough right now because of injuries, but I still think they should be able to pepper Jonas Johansson in this game and get their chances. Special teams have really killed Ottawa. They were fantastic last year. 75.8 on the penalty kill has been atrocious. LA made fools of them on the penalty kill. That was embarrassing. Like they passed that thing, and LA's got a good power play. Don't get me wrong, but like they just made like the Sens, they're getting stacked on top of each other in the D zone on the penalty kill. Guys are way out of position. It's like just hold the box and hold the diamond. Like it's not that hard. And like it just seems like players don't know where to be to me when I watch them. Like there's a whole lot of puck chasing and staring, and it's just a mess. So hopefully they can clean that up tonight, because Tampa obviously has a good power play as well. I don't even know what their percentage is at right now, but I'm guessing it's pretty high. Yeah, they're fourth with 30.3%. So that's going to be a terrible matchup for Ottawa. So hopefully, I mean, honestly, you know what I want to see tonight more than anything? I want to see Jonas Korpisalo steal this game. Now, we talked about this. I put my 3 positives of the year out earlier on Twitter because I've been so negative that I needed to get some positives off my chest. I actually put goaltending as a positive. I think a lot of people would disagree. And that's just because before the year, we said it. They don't need Korpisalo and Forsberg to steal games this year. They shouldn't need them to steal games this year. To me, that still should be true. They just need them to be consistent and solid. Like they can let in goals. They don't need shutouts every second night, but they need them to be solid and consistent. Aside from rough games against Detroit and Buffalo, I want to say, those were the really bad performances. Other than that, like the goalies have been fine. Korpisalo has strung together a few really good games here, and the Sens just haven't been able to win. Like to me, they don't need to rely, or they shouldn't be relying on their goalie to steal games for them. But you know what? Tonight I'm going to put it on Korpisalo because you said it on Twitter today too. I think Forsberg probably should have, I don't want to say should have, but he could have got the nod for this game. Korpisalo's had quite a few games in a row now. They're trusting Jonas though, and I want to see him steal it because frankly, the players are underperforming right now. They're not taking advantage of their goaltender being consistent. So now they need him to step up and really be the one to reach the next level, because frankly, I don't know who's going to do it from a player perspective. So why not Jonas Korpisalo coming up big for Ottawa tonight? Maybe, 2 goals or less. That's going to be my key. 2 goals or less. It's going to be tough against Tampa, but if he can do that, I'm confident the Sens will score at least 3. And I'm going to regret that later because it's probably not going to happen. So give me a few keys too once you get into this, because I want to hear some of your keys to this one.
Yeah, I will get into keys. The thing about Forsberg that I wanted to clarify, because I got pitchforks for that one for some reason, of all things. People might have misread what I said, and if you didn't see it, I mentioned that Forsberg hasn't played since he was pulled by Travis Hamonic in that Buffalo game, which was 2 weeks ago, and obviously they've only played 3 games since. This will be their 4th, but Korpisalo's played all 4. Or is it 3? Whatever it is, they've not rotated the tandem. And I get that Korpisalo is playing really well the last 3 games. So yeah, this will be 4. Like, I understand that he's playing well. The problem is you have this tandem. You talked about it as a tandem. It's probably my biggest issue with DJ right now. What are you doing? Like, I understand. I'm not taking away from it because Korpisalo's not playing well. Like, he is. He looks great the last 3 games. He stole that one in Pittsburgh for sure. But I mean, you've got it just bothers me, I guess, because Korpisalo had a bad game against Detroit. Forsberg goes and has a bad game against Buffalo. They pull Forsberg, and obviously in a very not great way, getting the player to tell him. And then they go back to Korpisalo, who has a good showing, and then they go back to Korpisalo, then back to Korpisalo. Like, Forsberg is just sitting there after getting pulled, and that's not a tandem. And if you want a tandem, and they talked about getting them both in a groove, there's no way Forsberg's in a groove right now. This is like, Brennan, if we were talking about injuries and stuff, if we were talking about a goaltending injury, like if Forsberg was injured right now, wouldn't we be more like panicking a little bit more, right? But they're treating it like he is. He's not even playing. And it's not about taking away from what Korpisalo is doing, like ride the hot hand, yeah, whatever. But they're still 1-2. They haven't won games. So again, like, I know he's playing well, but he's let in 3 goals in 2 of the losses, and that's too many. Like, it's that extra goal. So my point is, like, switch something. And it's not, I'm really coming off here as an anti-Korpisalo guy. I like the signing. I like the goalie a lot more than I think a lot of people did. But I liked the idea of a tandem. This guy, neither goalie has played more than 45 games in their career. I don't think anyone started more than 41 in one season. So that's half a year. You can't ride Korpisalo this much or you're going to burn him out. Big issue that we've had with a lot of players. So that was my gripe. It was just that you have this tandem, use it. And I think Forsberg was better. Actually, that's what bothers me more. Forsberg was better than Korpisalo. After that Buffalo game, the whole body of work, Forsberg's numbers were better and he had better starts. So I don't get it. At least Korpisalo is playing well, but again, like if he gets lit up tonight, I know who's starting next game. It's going to be Anton Forsberg. It's predictable and it's ridiculous. The thing that's good is that I know I mentioned he's let in 3 goals, whatever. But in years past, the scapegoat for this franchise was goaltending, obviously, because it was a carousel. And for DJ too, and it was a legitimate concern. Like last year was legit. They were a good enough team, just couldn't get a save and couldn't score at 5-on-5. But I mean, you can't use that argument now. They're giving up shots galore, and the goalie is bailing them out for what he can. Like, let's be honest here, that Pittsburgh win is a bit of like an asterisk, right? This is a 5-game, 6-game losing streak here where they haven't strung together a solid performance since that Washington game. So that's what I got on I don't even have a key to the game, man. I don't know. Just score more goals.
Talk about Ottawa's lines a little bit because they're a bit different tonight.
That's a good point. Okay.
Do you have them pulled up?
No, I think I got him. It's Joseph, Stützle, Tkachuk. We pull him up here for the stream, but Joseph will be playing with Stützle and Tkachuk. Third lining brackets here is going to be Roby Arventi, NHL debut, between Claude Giroux and Drake Batherson. That leaves Norris, Kubalik, and Tarasenko. That's going to be the shooters line. So yeah, I don't mind it. Then obviously it'll be McEwen, Kelly, and Chartier. Here we go. We got the projected lineup. To me, honestly, I'm excited for that third line. Arventi had a great preseason, and quite frankly, I thought deserved to be up here, which a lot of guys did. But yeah, I kind of like it, to be honest. I like that first line a lot too. You had to switch something up because of all the headlines this season, I think on the ice, arguably, because all the other stuff has been the same, but arguably those top 3 guys, even though the points are there, I'm talking Tkachuk, Stützle, and Giroux, haven't been the top line in all caps, if that makes sense. And I think people would agree with that. Not ideal. Brady Tkachuk, again, like he's not having a bad year, but he's got 6 goals, which again is still good, but they came in 3 games, right? He's got 3 2-goal games. So they need more from the captain, more consistency. And Stützle, we've all talked about. So I like it. Joseph's been one of their better forwards all season. So why not stick him, give him a little bit of a reward playing with the top dogs? I don't hate it. What do you think about the lines?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the top line of Tkachuk, Stützle, and Giroux, all 3 of them just have to be more impactful. I know, like, Stützle and Giroux are leading the team, tied with Tarasenko with 10 points, but obviously only 2 goals. Stützle, one of those was an empty netter. And then Tkachuk he's got 6 goals, but in 3 games, he's got 8 points. points just aren't everything, and you need these guys to be consistent every night. That's why they were so good last year. They were consistent every night they were on, and other teams really struggled to stop them. This year, it just hasn't been the same. I did notice last game, I thought Tim looked a lot more like Tim. He was like really like trying to, and again, a lot of the time alone, because whatever the system is that they're running is like there's no support ever. But in the corners and stuff, he was like really handling the puck well and actually, not creating bad turnovers like he has been. So I want to see more of that. But yeah, those three guys kind of need to get it together here, especially because of the injuries and stuff. You look at Ottawa's back end right now, and it's just like atrocious. Sanderson and Chikrin are good, obviously, but Hamonic has been, he's been like, I don't even know the word to describe him. I'll just call him a liability. I think it was Zubcast too that put up, he has like the most expected goals against per 60 minutes of all defensemen of over 100 ice time this year at 5v5.
Zubcast was firing out the stats.
Man, it's bad. Like XGA per 60 is actually like a really good stat to measure defense. It just means like how many goals are expected to go in when that player's on the ice per 60 minutes. And like his is like 4 point something or 5 point. Like it's really bad. He's struggling. He's weighing Sanderson down. Like Sanderson, you can see him desperately trying to make something happen. He just has no outlet with his partner. And then Hamonic, obviously, when he gets the puck, he just whips it up the wall and never looks. And it's just like, it's bad. So anyway, he's forced to play there. I don't like the defense pairings, but I don't really know what you do to solve it because they're missing three guys right now. Brandstrom should be back soon. Zub should be back soon. It'll look a lot better, but I would like to see them play Clevin and Matt and Paula more tonight. I think both those guys have looked really good. And for some reason, another weird thing, like, yes, they're new and they're rookies, but like they've both looked good in limited minutes. So like up their minutes a bit, take some of the weight off of Chikrin and Sanderson. Chikrin's played like over 25 minutes in the last 3 games. That's fine, but I just don't see a reason to be limiting Clevin and Montepallo to under 10 minutes each. Like, play these guys a little more. If Hamonic is struggling, like, make the hard decision to demote him and bring somebody else up because, like, it can't get any worse. Let me just put it that way. It literally can't. And if DJ doesn't see that, then I don't know what game he's watching because it's noticeable on the ice. It's noticeable in the analytics. It's noticeable in the most basic stats. So that's kind of the take on that. I like the forward lines. I'm really excited to watch Yarventi play. Really, Greg being out was another point that we didn't really touch, but that's like another huge blow. I think he was the best player along with Jake Sanderson for Ottawa this year, and that's just really, really unfortunate to be missing him, especially with Pinto out. If something happens to Norris, things are going to go off the rails very quickly. So pray that doesn't happen, but I'm holding my breath. Greg is out indefinitely. So is Mark Kastelik. So that's 2 centers right there that are probably going to be out for at least a few weeks. Greg was on, obviously, probably leading the Calder race when he got hurt, and now he's going to be behind. So whatever, that is what it is, but that's a huge loss for Ottawa from a team perspective. Now it's going to be Yarventi, who, he was great in the preseason. I'm a big fan. I really like what they're doing here. I know a lot of people are skeptical, but I really like putting him because this is a balanced top 9. I love putting him with the 2 playmakers in Giroux and Batherson. Yarventi is a pure shooter. This guy has a bomb of a shot. You'll see it in the AHL if you look up the clips. I really like putting him in a situation to thrive offensively because he's not someone who's going to thrive in a defensive role. If you put him with McEwen and Kelly, like, he's not going to look good. If you put him with Batherson and Giroux, you might actually get some production and some results. So big fan of that decision. So I'll give DJ his props on that one because I'm excited to see these forward lines. I'm not quite as angry about them as everybody else is, but we'll see. The defense is a mess, and that's why I think Korpisalo is going to have to really stand on his head tonight, or it's going to be another bad game. But that's pretty much all I've got on the game tonight. I mean, there's not much else. It just comes down to limiting the errors, being better on special teams, and not dumping without any chase for like 60 minutes straight.
Yeah, it feels like special teams has been a bit of a story here. Like, the power play is actually okay. It's 12th right now. Like, they're clicking. The second unit's got more goals, which is a bit of a problem, but PK hasn't been great, but it just feels like every game they're losing the special teams battle, which is what ends up losing these hockey games. But one thing I want to mention, looking at that lineup, they're missing 3 of their top 6 defensemen, Chabot, Zub, and Brandstrom. And I like that even then they have enough depth, like that, which is again a testament to Dorion this past summer. But I like that we're still demanding results. Like, injuries are not a good excuse right now, and they've got a lot of guys out. And yeah, Greg is a big loss because of the way he was playing, and how's Joseph going to look, all of that. But at its core, it just speaks to what we talked about from day one here on this podcast, is holding them to a different standard this season, and that's not just coaching and management, that's players too. And you got to go get the results. And all these home games, man, like you said, the schedule to open was a breeze when you look at it. Like, I've had 1 back-to-back so far, a lot of home games, 3 games on the road. And I know Sweden's a big road trip, but it's no excuse to see things kind of burn to the ground. So expecting a big effort out of the guys tonight. So we will see. I like that you mentioned that your Venti, Giroux, Batherson line. I think that line scores a goal tonight. I think Batherson's going to get one because he was very, very snake bitten against LA. So that's all I got, man. That was a good pregame show. Hit on a lot there. Obviously more off ice stuff, I would say, than not, but that's the way it goes in Ottawa, I guess, always, even with new owners and new team, whatever it is. So we thank everyone for joining us tonight. Enjoy the game tonight. We got a hockey night in Canada. First hockey night in Canada game the Sens are hosting this year. They were in Pittsburgh last week, and the other ones were afternoon ones. So it's first prime time, if you want to call it, game at the Canadian Tire Center. So I'm sure it'll be a good one between the Lightning and the Sens. Thanks everyone for joining. Leave a like on the YouTube page. Subscribe to the YouTube page as well. We're on the road to 2,000. And leave a subscription as well to everydaysens.com. And we'll see everyone next time. Thank you for joining.